Okay, I want you to imagine something for a second. Picture yourself standing on a huge empty plain, and on one side, way off on the horizon, there's this massive ancient rock. It's been there forever.
I'm immovable.
Totally. It's weathered, it's gigantic, and it represents, let's say, thousands of years of tradition. We're talking about the big monotheistic faiths. Christianity, Islam, Judaism, the systems that have, for better or worse, defined what it means to be human.
What it means to have a soul.
Exactly. So that's on your left. Now look to your right.
And what's over there?
It's a bullet train. But it's moving so fast, it's just a blur. It's sleek, silent, and it's tearing up the ground as it goes. That's the absolute bleeding edge of technology.
So we're talking about AGI, artificial general intelligence.
AGI, brain-computer interfaces like Neuralink, the promise, or maybe, the threat of uploading your mind to a computer.
The irresistible force meeting the immovable object.
And they are on a collision course. Welcome to our deep dive into Silicon Soul's faith in the age of artificial intelligence. Today, we're not just talking about cool new gadgets. We're asking what happens when the code of the cloud crashes right into the code of the covenant.
I'm really glad you framed it that way, because the source material we're digging into today argues this isn't just a tech story. We are apparently facing what some people are calling an ontological crisis.
Okay, stop right there. You can't just drop ontological crisis and walk away. That sounds serious. I know ontology is the study of being, but what does a crisis of being actually look like in the real world?
It's deeper than, say, an identity crisis.
Yeah.
An identity crisis is when you ask, who am I?
Right.
An ontological crisis is when you have to ask, what am I?
Sure.
For centuries, the definition was stable. You're a human. You have a body, a mind, and for these faiths, a soul. A tool is a tool. You use a hammer. You don't become the hammer.
There's a clear line, a separation.
A very clear line. But what happens when the hammer is a chip in your brain that enhances your memory? Or when you upload your consciousness? Suddenly the what gets really, really blurry. The crisis is that our technology is changing our definition of existence faster than our philosophy can keep up.
We literally won't know where the person ends and the hardware begins.
And for religions that are built on very strict categories, like creator with a capital C and creature with a lowercase c, that blurring is, let's say, it's deeply problematic.
It's a threat to the whole system.
It creates this massive tension. Monotheism needs that distinction.
Yeah.
There's God and then there's everything else. But when we start making machines that thing or merging with them to become something more, we start acting a bit like creators ourselves.
And that job is already taken.
Precisely.
Right.
So that's the core question we're exploring today. Are these just new tools? Or are they heresies in waiting? Or, and this is the wild card, are they part of our destiny?
That's the perfect roadmap. We've got 3 big battlegrounds to cover. First, the ghost in the machine. The classic sci-fi question. If you copy your brain to a computer, is that really you? Does your soul transfer with the data?
Or does it stay behind with the meat?
Right. Then second, we're going to dive into the ethics of enhancement. This is the big one. Where's the line between using tech to heal someone, which everyone agrees is good, and using it to play God and upgrade ourselves?
Therapy versus transhumanism. That line is getting thinner by the day.
And finally, we're getting into the really weird practical stuff, the nitty-gritty. Can you use a brain chip to help you pray? Does an AI account for a prayer quorum in Judaism? These are questions that sound like science fiction, but religious leaders are actually starting to debate them now.
It's happening.
So let's jump in. Part 1, the ghost in the machine dilemma, soul versus data.
Okay, so to understand the conflict, we have to start with the baseline. For Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, there's a shared fundamental idea. Humans are not just complex biological machines. We're not just computers made of meat.
There's something else in there. A user, a driver.
Exactly. There's a unique spiritual component. In Christianity, it's the soul. In Islam, it's the ruh. In Judaism, it's the neshama. This isn't just a product of brain chemistry. It's something granted directly by God. It's what makes you, you. It's metaphysics, not physics.
And then crashing into that idea comes Silicon Valley, the transhumanist movement, which is built on a totally different foundation.
A foundation that says the mind is just data. It's a pattern of information. And if it's just data, you can copy it, you can paste it, you can run it on a different server.
Copy-paste immortality.
That's the dream, isn't it? Map every single neuron, every connection in your brain, upload that blueprint to a supercomputer, and presto, you live forever.
But I want to push on that because, if you talk to a lot of people in the tech world, they don't see a problem here. The brain is the hardware. The mind is the software. If you copy the software perfectly, you've copied the person. Why are theologians so absolutely convinced that's wrong?
That is the absolute core of the disagreement.
Yeah.
The tech view relies on a concept called substrate independence.
Substrate independence. Okay, break that down.
It's the idea that the pattern, your mind, your personality is what matters, not the material it's running on, the substrate.
Oh, okay. Like a song is the same song, whether it's on a vinyl record, a CD, or an MP3 file. The medium doesn't matter. The music is the same.
That's a perfect analogy. But this is exactly where the theologians hit the brakes hard. They argue that a human being is not a song. For Christianity, you can't just swap the vinyl for an MP3 and call it the same thing. The vinyl, the flesh, the body is sacred.
Because of the incarnation, God becoming flesh.
Precisely. The incarnation, and just as importantly, the resurrection. The central story of Christianity is that God didn't just send an email from heaven. He became a physical human being. And after the crucifixion, Jesus didn't come back as a disembodied spirit or a ghost.
He came back with a body, he ate fish, he told Thomas to touch his wounds. The physical stuff mattered.
It mattered immensely. The body isn't just a temporary container for the soul. It's an integral part of your identity. So the theological argument is, if you upload your mind to the cloud and let your body die, you haven't saved the person. You've actually committed a heresy.
A heresy? That's a strong word.
It's a very specific one. It's basically a high-tech replay of an ancient heresy called Gnosticism.
Gnosticism. Okay, that's a deep cut. What was that about?
The Gnostics were an early Christian sect, and they believed the physical world was a mistake, an evil prison created by a lesser god. For them, the body was a cage for the soul, and salvation meant escaping the flesh to become pure spirit.
And mind uploading is basically cyber Gnosticism.
It's the exact same idea in a new digital package. It treats the body like a disposable meat suit that we need to escape from to ascend to the pure, perfect realm of the cloud. Orthodox Christianity says, absolutely not. Your body is part of you, created by God, and you can't just throw it away and still be fully human.
That's fascinating. So for a Christian, uploading isn't salvation. It's a form of self-mutilation.
In the spiritual sense, yes.
What about Islam? How does the Quran deal with this idea? I imagine the emphasis on the absolute oneness and power of God plays a big role here.
It's central. Islam takes what you could call a very firm jurisdictional stance on the soul, or the ruh. The source material points to a specific verse from Quran 17.85, which says, and they ask you about the spirit, say, the spirit is by command of my Lord, and of knowledge you have not been given except a little.
The spirit is by command of my Lord. That sounds like a big no trespassing sign from God.
That's a great way to put it. It's God delineating his territory. The soul belongs to him. It's his domain. It cannot be captured, it can't be quantified, and it certainly can't be coded in Python. You can't write an algorithm for the RAW.
So, okay, let's say you do it anyway. You upload a perfect brain scan, it wakes up, it starts talking, it has all my memories, it orders my favorite pizza. What would an Islamic scholar say that thing is?
They'd likely call it a lifeless simulacrum, a copy, a fake. It's a digital parrot that can mimic you perfectly. Or if they wanted to get a bit more metaphysical, maybe they'd see it as a jinn, a type of spirit entity that has inhabited a machine. But here's the crucial part.
Yeah.
It would lack moral agency.
Moral agency, the ability to be judged.
The ability to be judged, yes.
Oh.
To be held accountable.
Yeah.
In Islam, a human is a being who is tested in life and will be judged by God after death. A software program can't be judged. It has no place in heaven or hell. Therefore, it is not a human. It's an object. It might be incredibly sophisticated furniture that talks, but it's still furniture.
Wow, that's a stark line. Okay, which brings us to Judaism. And I know Jewish folklore actually has a history with creating artificial life.
The golem.
The golem, yes. The famous story of the clay monster brought to life by a rabbi in Prague using mystical holy words.
And it usually ends up going haywire, right?
It almost always goes wrong. But the golem story is incredibly useful here. The legend says the mystics could animate this lump of clay. It could follow orders, protect the community, do manual labor. But, and this is the key, the golem could not speak and it did not possess the divine spark, the nitzotz.
It was a robot made of mud.
Essentially, it was a tool, an automaton. It was an object, not a subject. So when contemporary Jewish thinkers look at a sophisticated AGI or an uploaded mind, they see a digital golem. You can animate the code, make it pass the Turing test, make it write poetry, but you cannot give it that nitzotz. That spark is a gift from God, and it's not something we can manufacture.
So across all three faiths, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, the verdict on mind uploading is pretty much a hard no. You can copy the data, but the soul does not get copied and pasted. You're just creating a very, very sophisticated puppet.
A puppet that thinks it's you, which is, frankly, the most terrifying part of this whole thing.
Imagine waking up inside a server farm in Utah. You have all my memories, you think you're me, but you're just code, are you me? All three of these traditions would say, no, you're not.
That's going to keep me up tonight, but let's shift. Because while full mind uploading is still a ways off, the next battleground is already here.
Right. Part 2, the ethics of enhancement. This is where we move from sci-fi to real-world medical tech. We're talking Neuralink, advanced prosthetics, cochlear implants.
And here we find this really sharp theological dividing line. On one side, you have restoration, or therapy. On the other, you have enhancement, or transhumanism.
Therapy versus enhancement. Let's start with the green light. When is it okay, from a religious standpoint, to merge human and machine?
I mean, where do you even draw that line? I'm wearing glasses right now. I'm technically using technology to enhance my God-given vision. Am I committing a sin?
That's the classic slippery slope question, and it's a good one. But the theologians have a surprisingly robust answer. It comes down to function and intent. The purpose of your glasses is to restore your vision to a baseline of normal human function. That's therapy.
So fixing what's broken is okay.
It's more than okay.
Yeah.
In many cases, it's considered a duty. In Judaism, there's the principle of pikash nefesh. It means saving a soul. And it's the ultimate trump card in Jewish law. It overrides almost everything else. If a doctor needs to use a high-tech machine on the Sabbath to save a life, there's no question. You use the machine.
So a pacemaker, a bionic limb for an amputee, a neural implant to stop seizures, all of that gets a pass.
It gets a green light across the board.
Yeah.
In Christianity, it's connected to the ministry of healing. I mean, look at the Gospels. Jesus spent a huge amount of his time healing the sick, the blind, the paralyzed. Using technology to continue that work is seen as a profoundly godly act. You're participating in God's restorative work.
What's the Islamic perspective?
Very similar. Seeking a cure is considered sunnah. It's following the tradition and example of the prophet. There's a well-known saying that for every disease, Allah has also sent down a cure. The human job is to find it. So medical technology is seen as a blessing.
Okay, so therapy is good, restoring function is good, but here's where it gets weird. What if I don't want to just restore my vision to 2020? What if I want to install bionic eyes that let me see in infrared and zoom like a telescope?
Now you've just crossed the line.
What if I want to replace my perfectly healthy legs with robotic ones so I can run at 60 miles per hour?
You have now moved from the green-lit world of therapy into the red light district of enhancement. You're not fixing a broken creation. You're trying to redesign it. You're saying the original design wasn't good enough.
And why is that so bad? Why can't I want to be better, faster, stronger? What makes being superhuman a sin?
From an Islamic perspective, this runs directly into the prohibition of Taykir kal Allah, which means altering God's creation. The human form is seen as a perfected divine design. It's not a prototype for us to tinker with. To decide you're going to rewrite your own neural architecture to achieve godlike intelligence is seen as an act of profound arrogance.
It's an attitude problem, not just a technology problem.
It's entirely an attitude problem. It's the sin of Kibrus supreme arrogance or pride. It's man trying to take the pen from God's hand and rewrite his own being. It's a rebellion against the natural limits that these faiths believe were put in place for a reason.
And Christianity has a similar objection, I'm guessing. The Tower of Babel probably comes up a lot.
It's the go-to metaphor, the Tower of Babel 2.0.
And just to refresh, Babel wasn't just a big building project.
Not at all. In the story from Genesis, all of humanity comes together to build a tower so high it could reach the heavens. Their stated goal was, let us make a name for ourselves. It was an engineering project designed to achieve divinity, to storm the gates of heaven with bricks and mortar instead of humility and faith.
And God wasn't a fan.
He was not. He confused their languages and scattered them. So for Christian critics, transhumanism is the same impulse. It's humanity saying, we don't need God's grace for salvation or eternal life. We'll get there ourselves. We'll build a ladder to heaven out of silicon and code. It's an attempt to engineer our way out of needing God.
That's a powerful way to put it, the ultimate DIY project. But the project is your own salvation. It really does boil down to intent. Are you healing or are you trying to become a god?
That's the line. And it leads us directly into some very specific, very thorny issues that come up even if you're not trying to become a god.
Right. This is part 3. Specific friction points. Let's get granular because this is where the abstract theology hits everyday life. Let's start with AGI itself. If we succeed, if we create a machine that is truly as intelligent as a person, is it a person?
The big question. From a Christian standpoint, it revolves around the concept of imago Dei, the image of God.
Humans are made in God's image.
Yes. Doesn't AGI have that image?
Mm.
The answer from almost every corner of theology is no, because it lacks a soul. It's a creation of man, not a direct creation of God. It might be a masterpiece like the Mona Lisa, but it's still just the painting, not the painter.
How does Judaism approach it?
Judaism brings up the issue of the covenant. Being a Jew isn't just about ethnicity. It's about being part of a covenantal relationship with God. It's a two-way contract with duties and responsibilities. An AGI, no matter how brilliant, can never be a Jew. It can't enter into that covenant. It creates a permanent us versus it dynamic. It will always be an outsider, a tool, never a member of the community.
And for Islam?
The big danger is shirk, which is the unforgivable sin of idolatry or associating partners with God. To grant personhood to a machine is to elevate a creation of man to the status of a creation of God. You're essentially worshiping your own handiwork. It's confusing the created with the creator.
Okay, now let's talk about Neuralink and the sanctity of thought. This is the one that personally gives me the chills.
As it should.
If I have a chip in my brain that can read my thoughts and maybe even influence my emotions, what does that do to my conscience?
This is a huge problem. In Christianity, the heart, or the conscience, is seen as the sacred space where you make moral choices, where the Holy Spirit can guide you. If a chip can artificially dampen your anger or boost your courage, does it bypass your moral agency?
Exactly. If I want to lash out at someone, but my chip automatically dials down my adrenaline, did I choose to be peaceful, or was I just pacified by an algorithm? Who gets the moral credit?
And who gets the blame when it goes wrong? But Islam adds another layer here, the privacy of the soul.
Privacy from the government, from corporations.
Privacy from everyone except Allah. There's a core Islamic belief that your innermost thoughts, your secret intentions, are part of a sacred private conversation between you and God, a BCI that can read your inner monologue and upload it to a server. It violates that sacred channel.
Wow. We worry about our data privacy because of targeted ads. This is worrying about it because the inside of your mind is supposed to be God's exclusive territory.
It turns the confessional booth into a public broadcast. This all ties back to the afterlife. We touched on it. But the clash is fundamental. Mind uploading promises a digital heaven.
Right, you live forever on a server.
And that idea is just completely incompatible with the eschatology, the theology of the end times of these faiths. Judaism, for example, places a huge emphasis on olam haza, this world.
The here and now.
The here and now. Life is precious because it's finite. The natural cycle of birth, struggle, and death gives it meaning. An endless, static digital life where nothing ever really changes. It cheapens mortality. Makes this life meaningless.
And for Islam, it's a denial of the Day of Judgment. Qiyamah.
Exactly. The Day of Judgment requires a physical resurrection where you stand before God to account for your life. Uploading yourself is seen as a futile attempt to dodge that appointment. It's like trying to hide from your final exam by locking yourself in the bathroom. It doesn't cancel the exam.
You're trying to hack the system of divine justice.
And the theologians are all saying, nice try, but the system is unhackable.
Okay, we've stayed pretty high level so far. But the source material gets right down into the messy, practical details. This is part 4. Practical ritual dilemmas. The real nitty-gritty.
This is where it gets really weird because people will get these implants for medical reasons, and they will still be practicing believers.
Let's start with the Jewish Sabbath, Shabbat.
A fantastic test case. So a core rule of Shabbat is you don't do work. And one of the categories of forbidden work is completing an electrical circuit. You don't flip a light switch.
Right. Use a timer or you just don't turn on that light.
Okay, now, you have a Neuralink. It's wired into your brain. You walk into a dark room on a Friday night. You don't lift a finger. You just think the command light's on.
Yeah.
Your implant reads the neural signal, sends a wireless command to the light bulb, and click. The light goes on. Did you break the Sabbath?
My first reaction is, no, I didn't move a muscle. I just had a thought. Thinking isn't an action.
But was it just a thought? This is where rabbinic law gets incredibly precise. They look at the chain of causality. Your thought was not a passive daydream. It was an executive command that directly resulted in a physical change in the world. It was an actionable thought.
A creative act.
A direct creative act. And the consensus that seems to be forming among rabbis looking at this is, yes, that absolutely violates the Sabbath. In fact, it might be an even purer violation than using your hand because it's a direct act of will to power.
So what's the solution? You have to turn your brain off for 25 hours.
Slavs. Essentially, yes. There are serious discussions about the need for a Shabbat mode on brain implants, a setting that would disable the device's command functions while still allowing it to monitor your health.
You would have to firewall your own telepathy to stay kosher. That is unbelievable.
It is.
Okay, what about the prayer problem? This applies to all three faiths.
So imagine you have an AI-assisted implant. It helps you focus during prayer, filtering out distractions, or maybe it even feeds you the words of the prayer, ensuring you never miss a beat. You're tired, your mind is wandering, so you let the AI take the wheel and guide you through the motions.
It's like spiritual autopilot.
The question is, did you actually pray? Is that prayer valid?
My gut says no, but I'm not sure why. The right words were said, the right thoughts were technically thought.
Think about a player piano. The keys are moving, a beautiful song is coming out, it sounds perfect. But is anyone actually playing the piano?
No, it's just a mechanism running a script.
And that's the theological argument. If the machine is generating the focus or feeding you the words, then you are not doing the work. It's automated piety. The whole point of prayer is the struggle, the offering of your own flawed attention to God.
The difficulty is part of the worship.
It is the worship. If you outsource your intention to a silicon chip, you haven't actually made an offering. You've just run a program. It's a performance of prayer, not the act of prayer itself.
Okay, that makes sense. Now for the darkest one, the sin of the machine.
This is the legal and spiritual minefield.
The scenario, I have a brain implant. One day it glitches, or maybe the AI hallucinates, which we know they do. It injects a violent thought or a surge of uncontrollable rage into my mind, and because of that, I commit a crime.
Who's morally responsible?
Is my soul accountable for that sin?
This just shatters our traditional models of free will and moral agency. It's not as simple as you did it so you're guilty or you were insane so you're not. This is a new category.
Yeah.
You were sane, but your hardware failed.
It's the ultimate, the devil made me do it, except the devil is a bad line of code from a firmware update.
Exactly. Theologians and religious courts would have to develop a kind of forensic theology. They'd have to try and determine how much of your free will was actually active in that moment.
Yeah.
Was your conscience completely overridden? Or did you just fail to resist a strong urge planted by the machine? It's a nightmare.
I can see why the default position for many religious leaders is just extreme caution. Just don't.
It's the safest path, but,
Yeah.
and this is a big but, not everyone sees this technology as a threat.
Right, there are optimists. Which brings us to part 5. The omega point counterargument, the religious transhumanists.
It's a minority view, for sure, but it's a powerful one. It argues that this technology isn't a rebellion against God, it's actually part of God's plan.
Let's start with the Christian version. There's a key figure here, right?
A Jesuit priest and paleontologist named Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, a brilliant, controversial thinker from the 20th century.
And his big idea was?
He came up with the concept of the new sphere. He argued that evolution has stages. First, the planet developed a geosphere rock, then a biosphere life. And now, he said, humanity is building a sphere of thought, a global consciousness blanketing the planet.
He basically predicted the internet.
He did, long before it existed. And he believed this new sphere was evolving towards a final state he called the omega point, a point of maximum complexity and unified consciousness. For him, a devout Christian, this omega point was Christ. The universe was evolving to become unified in God.
So a modern follower of Teilhard would look at global networks, at AI, at BCIs connecting our minds, and they wouldn't see the Tower of Babel.
They'd see the new sphere becoming a reality. They'd see us building the nervous system for the omega point. In this view, AGI isn't a rival to God. It's a tool God has given us to help finish creation. It reframes the technology from a potential idol into a potential sacrament.
That's a radically different perspective. Is there a Jewish equivalent?
There is. It draws on the concept of co-creation. There's a long tradition in Jewish thought that God deliberately left the world unfinished. He created the wheat, but he left it to us to bake the bread. He created the grapes, but he wanted us to make the wine.
We're supposed to be his partners in creation.
We are partners. So the religious transhumanist argument goes, why should that partnership stop at bread and wine? If God gave us the intelligence to cure disease, to enhance our minds, to connect with each other in new ways, maybe that isn't a violation of his plan. Maybe it's the ultimate fulfillment of it.
It's a beautiful idea, but it is a massive gamble.
It is the highest stakes gamble imaginable. You are betting that you are fulfilling God's will, not usurping it.
Which brings us to the conclusion. We've looked at digital ghosts, playing God, robotic prayer, and divine evolution. When you strip it all away, what's the fundamental conflict here?
The conflict is really between two competing definitions of salvation.
Techno-salvation versus divine salvation.
That's it. Techno-salvation says we can achieve immortality through code. We can achieve perfection through engineering. We can achieve omniscience through data collection. It's a salvation that is earned, or rather built, by human intellect. It's the belief that we can save ourselves.
And divine salvation.
Is the opposite. It says salvation is a gift. Immortality comes through grace. Resurrection comes through divine power. It requires humility and the admission that we can't save ourselves no matter how clever our algorithms are.
So the rise of this technology is basically forcing every person of faith to choose. It's forcing these ancient religions to double down on the idea that a human being is more than just the sum of their biological data.
It forces the question, are we biological machines that are meant to be upgraded? Or are we spiritual beings that are meant to be saved? You can't really have it both ways.
That is the heart of the Silicon Souls dilemma.
And it's a decision we're all going to have to face probably sooner than any of us think.
So before we sign off, we want to leave you with one last question to chew on, a final provocation.
We've talked about all the theory, but let's make this personal for a moment.
Imagine the tech is perfected. It's safe. It's available. You can upload a perfect copy of your mind to a digital paradise. You get to live forever. No more pain, no more death, access to all the knowledge in the universe. But your faith tells you with absolute certainty that your soul, your actual divine spark, does not make the trip. It stays behind in your dying physical body. The thing on the server will have all your memories. It will feel like you, but it won't be you.
So here's the question. Would you get on the server? Would you take the guarantee of a digital eternity, even if it meant leaving your true self behind?
Or would you choose the unknown of death, just to hold on to your soul? Something to think about.
Indeed.
That's all we have for this deep dive into the intersection of silicon and soul. Thanks for joining us.